UFC Fight Night Winnipeg is going down this weekend. Mike Malott takes on Gilbert Burns in the main event. And I actually think it's going to be a pretty good fight. But before we dig into that, we're going to go over every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelims and giving our predictions. Starting with Jamie Siraj versus John Yanez. Real banger, guys. I know. Absolute banger of a fight. I'm going to go with Jamie Siraj making his UFC debut. John Yanez, he has a single UFC appearance where he lost to Austin Bashi. Austin Bashi, in my opinion, is not really that good, so not going to think too much about this one. Jamie Siraj, even though it's a little sus picking him, I'm not going to lie, he is debuting, and I don't really know any of the guys that he's fought, but he's kind of got that aura about him. I think that the UFC is going to give this guy an easy fight to open up the prelims in his home state. It should be a lock. We move on to the next fight at bantamweight. John Castaneda versus Mark Volgan. Oh my goodness. This guy's record is horrendous. I don't know if this guy is filling in on short notice. I think this fight was added on relatively short notice because I did not see this fight here a couple days ago. This guy, Mark Volgan, has a record of 0 wins, 1 loss. And that's not his UFC record. That's his professional MMA record. Quite literally, that's just insane. All right. Like, I don't know what the UFC is doing. The cards are getting worse and worse, as the years go by, because I mean, in what universe like 10 years ago would you ever see someone with no MMA wins at all and only 1 loss? In what universe do you see a guy like this in the UFC? I mean, for real. The only reason we're seeing this guy is because we need to have an event every single week and we need to fill out these cards with nobody. So I don't know who the hell this guy's filling in for. I'm picking John Castaneda. I think he actually has had a couple fights in the UFC. But I mean, even if he has, it doesn't matter if this guy's lost to fucking Daniel Zohuber. All right. He ain't losing this fight. Oh, yeah. He went to a split decision with Chris Gutierrez. All right. And Chris Gutierrez is actually pretty decent. Yeah, man. I'm picking Castaneda. We move on. Real banger, guys, I know. AJ Aldrich versus Jamie Lynn Horth. Man, God, it's so hard to pick, guys. I mean, we got 2 absolute killers, 2 savages. I mean, honestly, I don't think it's far off to call for a double knockout. A Looney Tunes level double knockout. They both throw straight at the same time, and they knock each other out, like that one clip from the regional scenes. But now I'm picking JJ Aldrich. Jamie Lynn Horth actually is pretty decent. I have actually seen a couple of her fights because she's always like the very first fight of the prelims, right? They're always doing my girl dirty. This time she's the 3rd fight up. That's how you know this card is really bad. But she actually is fighting a ranked opponent, which is interesting because I don't think Jamie Lynn Horth won her last fight. Did she? No, she did. Oh, yeah. She actually beat a pretty good girl. But I mean, before that, her one win was Vanessa Demopoulos. And Vanessa Demopoulos can't fight for shit. So, yeah, I'm picking JJ Aldrich. She's been in there for not a long time, but she's been in the UFC a good while now. I think her experience is going to help her pull through. I think Jamie Lynn Horth, I think she's older, but I don't think she has as much UFC experience. And I think she's pretty old. I think that's going to play a huge factor. JJ Aldrich is basically in her prime. So I think she should be able to win this. Although she does have a couple of real suspicious losses on her record, I will say. But she's always fought tough girls. So I think that's a good thing for us. I'm going JJ Aldrich by decision. Split decision, in fact. We're going from one women's fight to another. Melissa Croton versus Daria Zalesnikova. I'm going to pick Daria Zalesnikova on this one. I think her striking is pretty dang good. The one fight that she lost was against Eileen Perez, who is just known for, just absolutely manhandling like every single girl in that division. I don't blame her too much for getting twerked on by Eileen Perez. Melissa Croton, her activity is actually pretty crazy because I think she just got into the UFC. She either came in from 25 Contender Series or maybe it was the year before. I don't know, but I feel like she literally got her contract last year on the Contender Series, and this is her 3rd fight, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, man, I'm just picking Daria Zalesnikova. I just think the striking is going to be a real difference maker here. Melissa Croton, I think she's going to have to grapple her ass off if she wants to win this fight. And yeah, I think that's all there is to it. Also, Daria's a little cutie, ain't she? All these Russian girls, man, they look like they have Botox in their face, but it's like all natural. It's pretty wild looking. But anyways, we move on to the next fight. At heavyweight, we got 2 big boppers over here. Tanner Boser versus Gokam Sarakam. We're making money off this fight, boys. I've heard through the grapevine that it is a pretty good value bet to bet on this fight to go the distance. Both these guys are not that great, but Tanner Boser actually does have a couple of fights in the UFC a while ago before he was cut. Not great wins. Beat Ovate St. Peru, but then he's losing to Ion Cutelaba, which I guess that's fine. But he's losing to a couple other, he's losing to all the big names in the UFC. Then he gets cut, wins a fight on the regional scene, comes back, and he's going up against this 35-year-old Turkish man who what a build on this man. I'm picking Tanner Boser. I think he's going to win by big bop. He's going to land a couple of big boppers, but I'm going to go ahead and trust on Gokhan over here to survive, weather a storm, and lose a decision. I got Tanner Boser by decision. We move on to a fight at middleweight. Julian LeBlanc versus Robert Valentin. I'm actually going to go Julian LeBlanc on this one, even though he is debuting. And you could say that Robert Valentin has great experience being in there with Atiba Gautier, even though he got knocked out in like a minute. But he was in there for a bit, and he was also in there with Therese Finney and got absolutely wrestled into the mat. Not into the mat, actually, into the cage. I don't even think he got taken down that fight, but that just speaks to the skill level of Therese Finney. I'm going to go ahead and go with Julian LeBlanc. I don't know too much about him, but it's his debut. I like his record. I could see Robert Valentin stinking this up and, getting a win here because Julian LeBlanc does look a little green. But, yeah, man, I'm going to go with Julian LeBlanc. Just a gut feeling on this one. Not much else to say. We move on. Denis Bukaska versus Marcio Barbosa. I'm going to go with Marcio Barbosa. I'm picking him because he's mogging over here. No, I'm just joking. I should just start picking my fights based on who's mogging, and I'll probably get them more right than I have been lately. But no, I'm going with Marcio Barbosa. He has some pretty good wins on his record. He has a lot of first-round finishes. He could be going up against Cans, but, I just trust in him more than Denis Bukaska. This guy, although he has been in the UFC for a while, and again, it's like one of those fights where you could pick this guy simply because he actually has a UFC record, but I just don't think he's like that impressive. He pretty much loses to everyone that he fights, and he's losing to some of them I can understand. I can understand losing to Sean Woodson, but losing to Jamal Emmers and some of these other guys is I don't know, man. I just think he's one of these guys that just kind of somehow found his way into the UFC, and it's I don't know how he still has a contract. But I don't know. I don't think he's on that level. This other guy, man, he looks mean. Looks like he's been eating his Wheaties. All right. He looks like he might have a mean sweet pea special on him. And even though, again, he is debuting and his record is a little green, I don't know, man. These Brazilians too, man. I just look at him. I just look at him honestly, and I could tell that he's gonna put on a performance, man. All right, mark my words. All right, if he gets finished in the first round, you didn't hear it from me. We move on to the main card. Thiago Moises versus Gage Young. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that Thiago Moises is in his prime. I don't know what the odds are looking like in this fight, but I would think that they should have Gage Young as the favorite. Excuse me. Jesus Christ. I would think that they would have Gage Young as the favorite. Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's he's younger. He's tougher, I think. Thiago Moises, I think that he's been in a couple of wars. He's been in a couple of fights now where it's I don't think his body could hold up. I don't think that, I don't think that he's really in his prime anymore. I think he's at that point where he's starting to regress, starting to go down a little bit, starting to slow down. And yeah, man, I think it's Gage Young's time. I got Gage Young by KO. We move on to Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Karine Silva. Interesting fight, actually. We got a lot of women's fights, but this one is actually somewhat decent. I'm actually picking Karine Silva. I was going to originally pick Jasmine Jasudavicius, but she did just get knocked out cold recently by Manon Farrow, relatively recently. It was a bad knockout. Man, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough, though, because Karine Silva kind of sucks. But, it's just one of those fights where, this is the way I just see it happening. I can just see Karine Silva keeping it on the feet, lighting up Jasmine Jasudavicius, getting the decision, Jasmine Jasudavicius, sure, she might be able to score a couple takedowns. She might stink it up and get herself a smudge victory. But I believe in Karine Silva. I think that she's strong enough to defend those takedowns, keep it on the feet. I think that her striking is better than Jasmine Jasudavicius. It all just depends on whether or not she can get those takedowns. If she can get those takedowns and hold her there, then it's going to be that kind of fight, you know? But I got Karini Silva. We move on. Mandel Nalo versus Jai Herbert. I'm picking Mandel Nalo. Jai Herbert, he's the name that everyone knows out of these two, but Mandel Nalo is coming off a nasty, nasty knockout off of Dana White's Contender Series. I'm happy that he's finally getting his shot. To be honest, I feel like it might have been one of those fights where like he wasn't supposed to win, but you know, he did win it, and now he's here in the UFC at 35 years old. Yeah, just pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. But yeah, man, I got him. I mean, he's got that short, stocky build compared to Jai Herbert, who I feel like again is just one of those guys where like I feel like he's not really the same fighter he used to be. Not only that, I feel like he was never really even that good. I mean, what's the highlight of his career? The highlight of Jai Herbert's career is landing a head kick on Ilia Topuria and not winning the fight, getting knocked out like a round later, brutally. He's just one of these guys that's like super long. He uses his kicks. I could see Mandel Nalo getting in the pocket, landing one of those big nasty shots. I could see him getting Jai Herbert out of there. I'm going to pick Mandel Nalo by finish, by KO. That guy's powerful, man. I mean, he landed a hell of a straight right on his opponent on the Contender Series. I like that, man. I can see him landing that on Jai Herbert. And Jai Herbert, man, he's just not what he used to be. What was his last win? I completely forget. What was Jai Herbert's last win? We got to confirm this because unironically, like he just lost to Chris Padilla, who I picked in my last fight. He still got robbed in that last fight, by the way. Still got robbed. That was not a draw. Like, yeah, like, come on. Like, and he's super inactive. Like, he's quite literally fighting once a Jai Herbert, he must have a really good contract because why the hell are you fighting once a year? Right? He's losing to Zaram. And yeah, like the guys that he's beating, he's beating Badea. Badea? Who the hell's Badea? I don't think anyone knows who that is. So yeah, man, I'm not picking this guy, Jai Herbert. I think his time has come, unfortunately. Like that one scene from Kung Fu Panda. He's gonna turn to dust. We move on. Kyler Phillips and Charles Jourdain. I think this one's easy money, man. I'm going Charles Jourdain. Charles Jourdain by submission. Hear me out. Guillotines in high-level MMA don't usually work unless your name is Charles Jourdain. Well, I guess not really because it's not really high-level MMA when you're talking about Charles Jourdain. But yeah, I mean, he actually does have a pretty nasty guillotine. Kyler Phillips, man, he was supposed to fight a while ago, and I think his fight got canceled. Kyler Phillips, he's kind of the old unk in this fight. Yeah, man, like it's a styles thing. Like, yeah, Charles Jourdain loses a lot of fights. He kind of shits the bed sometimes. He didn't almost beat Sean Woodson. He was down, but he almost got him in a guillotine. And he just recently got that crazy flying knee knockout. He's clearly super explosive, super powerful. I could see him landing something like that on Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips, he's the grappler here. So, I could see him going in and either getting kneed in the face or getting caught in a gilly. But his jiu-jitsu is pretty good, and maybe he won't be so stupid as to get caught in a gilly. But actually, now that I think about it, man, yeah, I don't think it's really smart to actually pick a submission because now that I think about it, Kyler Phillips does have pretty good jiu-jitsu. And I don't think he's stupid enough to get himself caught in a guillotine. But who knows? I mean, Charles Jourdain does have a nasty gilly, but his overall grappling isn't really the best. So, I can see Kyler Phillips taking this to the mat, stinking it up, getting himself a decision win. I don't really see him getting a submission, but who knows? He absolutely could get a submission against Air Jourdain, but I'm still picking Air Jourdain. I think he's much more explosive. I think he's more dynamic in the striking. I think that Kyler Phillips, his game plan is a little too simple, but we'll see what happens, man. I'm actually decently interested in this matchup, and we'll see what happens. Now, we have arrived at the main event of the evening. Gilbert Burns versus Mike Malott. This one is genuinely kind of tough. I did pick Mike Malott to beat Kevin Holland. Thank goodness. It was kind of a close fight with all those nut shots, but thank God he didn't get any points deducted. And it's like, I like Mike Malott. I don't know, man. Like Gilbert Burns, it's easy to pick against him. He's on this losing streak, but he's been fighting the best guys. His last couple losses, Sean Brady, Michael Morales, two guys who just fought each other. And I think that Sean Brady took Gilbert to a decision. Michael Morales knocked out Gilbert Burns in the first round. He also ended up knocking out Sean Brady in the first round. So Michael Morales is really, really freaking powerful, man. At first, I was looking at that loss like, man, Gilbert should really retire. But then after Michael Morales went out and knocked out Sean Brady, lost a bunch of money for me, I was like, well, damn, Michael Morales is actually that good. So Gilbert Burns, he still has a chance, but he's a little old. I think he's almost 40 years old at this point. Mike Malott, he's basically just reaching his prime. He did lose to Neil Magny, but he was winning that fight for most of it. But the way he gassed out at the end and got finished was just not a good look. I don't know. I kind of want to pick Gilbert Burns. I kind of want to pick Gilbert Burns, but it's like I don't know if I fully can. Those five, I think it's like a 4 or 5 losing streak that he's on or something like that at this point. It makes it tough to choose him, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and do the risky thing here. And do I want to do that? Do I want to pick Gilbert Burns, or do I want to make the smart choice, the smart pick in Mike Malott? Because even though Mike Malott isn't necessarily spectacular in any one place, he is very well rounded. He is younger, but Gilbert Burns isn't that old. Man, it's actually a really tough fight to call. But I think just to pick one of these guys, I'm picking Gilbert Burns to do the upset. I don't know what the odds are like, but I'm assuming that Mike Malott would be the favorite. I just saw a couple weeks ago, man, I picked against one of these unks, one of these Brazilian unks, jiu-jitsu guy as well in Renato Moicano. I picked against him, and I was eating my words. But then again, I don't even think Mike Malott is, I don't think he's nearly, I think he's way above a guy like Chris Duncan. So this is going to be tough. But then again, it's like, I really didn't like the way that Mike Malott gassed out against Magny. Like, that's really what's kind of informing my choice here, is that was a really bad loss. But then he did come back and he got a couple wins. Shit, man, I think I'm going to have to switch my choice. I'm going to have to switch my choice. I'm going with Mike Malott. I'm going with Mike Malott. A real roller coaster of a predictions video. But, you know, it actually goes to show that this is actually a pretty good matchup. You know, you got this older, more weathered Gilbert Burns, but he's an absolute wizard on the ground. He's tough. You know, he's getting old now. We just don't know whether or not that chin will hold up. But the grappling advantage will be interesting. I do think that he has a grappling advantage over Mike Malott, a pretty significant grappling advantage. If he could manage to take Mike Malott down and hold him there, you know, I think he could find good positions to get ground and pound. I think that he could probably pull off the submissions, but I'm going to go with Mike Malott, you know, simply because Gilbert Burns, he's taking a lot of damage, a lot of mileage on him. I'm not 100% sure if his chin is where it used to be, but, you know, he did used to be pretty tough. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there. Mike Malott is going to be my pick, and I'm going to pick him to win via close decision. Pretty close decision, even split decision. I can't speak. So I'm going to do my recap video later this week after the event. So a like and a subscription would be very much appreciated. And be on the lookout for my latest upload.